Hey guys, and welcome to the Art Basics video. This is the very first video in the course, and we're just going to talk about three basic things in a very simple way at first, and then the next video is going to really expand your thinking of these things. So the first thing we want to talk about is shape and what we mean when we're talking about shape. All right. Shape really refers to 2D or iconographic shapes, right? Iconographic. So really something like this type of circle or a square, you know, anything that's kind of 2D flat, kind of on the page, something like that, that's a shape. You know, all of these things can be shapes. These are shapes, right? The shape of things, right? The basic sort of fundamental shape of something. So even something that is 3D, let's say, for example, let's just do kind of a more of a 3D head design here. Right, that's sort of just a basic head layout. Even the design of this has a basic shape to it that the viewer will see. All right. So really just that kind of basic shape. If you shaded it in, you know, that it was flat and no longer 3D, it has that kind of shape to it. So that's what shape is, 2D shapes or iconographic shapes. Even perhaps 2D is too much. They're very flat. It's almost like 1D because you really only see one side of a shape. Like a shape is just sort of a one-sided type of thing. All right. The next thing we want to look at is form, right? And what we mean by forms. Okay. So form is really 3D shapes, multiple sides. Okay. So we can see multiple sides of the object. So then we start using words like sphere, right? So we can imagine that as a ball, right? As a sphere or cube. Okay, so these are forms and so forth. And anything, we can try to turn anything into a form by kind of giving it multiple sides. So now I've added an ellipse to the end of this thing, and now maybe it looks like some kind of horn. Right, so it's kind of got more form to it. So we can see that there are multiple sides, and these are forms. And things that generally form part of form theory is stuff like perspective, which helps us understand kind of a virtual spatial area, right? So it gives us space to build things in, and things like lighting, right? When we kind of add light and shadow to things, we're kind of indicating form. You know, for example, if we keep this side light and we put this side in shadow, the viewer can then perceive via these two planes, these two different lit planes, that this is one side and this is another side. So that is form. And then last but not least, we have this category called detail, right? And detail, for the most part, things like textures, right? Textures and material types, which basically inform the textures, material types, and things like color. All right. So these things form the textures, the material types, the color. And for example, if this were our form, and we can see that this form has this shape to it, which is really something like that. Okay. And we could then say, well, let's make this a stone block, and I'll add some textures to it and maybe mess up its edges a little bit so it looks more stony and rock-like. And obviously if I added a color to it, gray or what have you, that would be the detail section. All right, so in the next video we're going to discuss this in depth, but basically this is the structure of art in many ways. We have shape at the bottom, then form, then detail. Take note of how much space each of these categories occupies on this sort of theoretical pyramid here. And it will really help you understand what the most important parts of your art are. All right, let's deep dive this in the next video. I'll see you there.